could, or I could, depending on how you feel, remind people that the workshop's going to be at 1 o'clock on Saturday.
Well,
not next weekend, the week after.
as far as I know, you're supposed to, you and Mike or somebody are supposed to speak today.
Okay.
Give
That's
some
good.
kind of comment, whatever you have to say.
That's great. Okay,
So
we'll do that.
we'll call on you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you doing?
Grandma, your hearing aids was at the tower. Yeah, wouldn't be in all the way. Which may have come fix up, but it might be her. I've had Michael's mother's, she had hearing aids. And I tried them.
We'll give you a high sign if the mic's on.
Yeah, Lori's going to be the first one to.
Who is?
Lori's going to be the first person to speak.
Okay, well then, just watch us.
Yeah.
We'll give you a high sign if the mic is on.
Okay. You're going to be first. Yeah. You'll be the first person to speak. Yeah. Tom is giving you the high sign.
Okay, high sign is there. Got it. Okay. All right. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lori.
This morning, I've been asked to share, prior to the beginning of the service, the events that have taken place recently for those of you who are unaware or would like clarification. Ryan Smith, resigned earlier in this week and will not be returning. We all share in the loss of his delightful music and his service. What makes it more difficult and disruptive is that we, Laura L., Laura A., Betty, Joseph, Mike, Robert, Sharon, and myself, your board of trustees and his employer, cannot share any information about this due to human resources regulations. It is natural that this is frustrating and understand that for some it raises thoughts of distrust. It's extremely difficult for us not to share also. These laws are put in place to respect both the employee's privacy and the employer's position. This is the job that you have given us. In addition to this, Janet has also resigned. She's an excellent musician and dedicated volunteer. She has been the heart of our choir. We will deeply miss her presence, and we wish both Janet and the Ryans the best moving forward. This is heartbreaking for all of us. With the multitude of feelings about what happened, we will provide time in the beginning of the town hall today for discussion. That'll be right after the service, like 12 o'clock. We will answer as honestly as we can while protecting those who are left and those who have stayed. Those who left and those who have stayed. It is evident for those who have been here for a while that this pattern of conflict has been repeated on and off for years. Several have noted our tolerance of breaking the covenant has continued over time. Mutual love and trust are the basis of our covenant. When we break that, the damage that follows also breaks down love and trust. All of this is of deep concern, and it is time that we address it directly. Our fellowship is filled with kind and loving people. These people have contributed much to the community and each other over the years, all of us. We believe it is time to put in as deep of a commitment to addressing this problem. We have contacted UUA and are enlisting the help of their conflict engagement team to work with our community. This will be starting in the next 2 weeks. I'd like to end these words and also invite you to the town hall at noon. These are words from the living tradition from Frederick E. Gillis. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lori. According to the order of service, the first thing that's going to happen is the conch blowing by Don. All right. We begin our worship services each week by singing an invitation to gather together, even as we are scattered in many different places. So our first hymn is on page 407 in the gray hymnal. We're going to sit at the welcome table. Please stand in body or spirit as you are able. I don't know how they're going to do it, but here we go. people know. And this is my debut performance as a worship associate. So here goes. This is the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, also known as UUFCC. This service is being broadcast via Zoom and YouTube and being recorded also. So if you can't follow it on YouTube right now, you can follow it later if you wish. I would like to offer thanks to Tom and Doug, who are our technicians for this morning. I would like to offer thanks for the people who have prepared the table in the fellowship hall, for have something right at the beginning when we come in, and the things that we'll have after the service is over. And I don't know when the decorations were done, but there were some added today, and I thank those people who have done that as well. We have a number of simple procedures that help and to keep things running smoothly. One is to protect and respect everyone's privacy. So it is our practice to use only first names, or when it's helpful, to use last initials too. If you are participating through Zoom, you may wish to have a chalice or candle available for our chalice lighting ritual. Whatever your faith or the country of your heritage, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Whether you entered on little feet or walked in briskly or ambled or rolled in, you are welcome here. Whether you are relatively new to this community or have been an active member for decades, you are welcome here. We are glad you chose this congregation as your place of worship today. In the name of compassion and loving kindness, we open our hearts to accept all kinds of people. For those who seek, our hearts have become church, temple, synagogue, mosque, sanctuary. For those who are hurting, we reach out to share your pain. For minorities or the forgotten, wherever you may come from, we welcome you here. We, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, believe in the religion of love, which prioritizes no color, no language, no nationality. We honor the truth in all personal stories. Our religion is about love and inclusion. It is good that we gather here today. If you are new here for the first time and would like to learn more about our fellowship, you can email the fellowship's administrator, Anna, at uufcc.office@gmail.com, or visit our website. We are glad that you are with us this morning. This morning's chalice lighting words are by Lao Tzu, the Chinese poet and philosopher who lived in China circa 400 BCE. The universe created the earth, and the earth created life. Our planet is a living organism. Each of us is an inherent part of this organism. The earth's pulse is our pulse. Nature's rhythms are our rhythms. Some thousands of years ago, our species alone declared independence from our Mother Earth and began to assert our dominance over nature. Now is the time to reunite with her, to treat our planet with care, moderation, and love is to be in synchrony with ourselves. With the lighting of this chalice, which has already occurred by Dr. Mike, we bring forth the flame that is symbolic of the fire of compassion, love, and hope that is held in our hearts. With the lighting of this chalice, we bring forth a light that represents our community, our hopes for a better future, and the spirit of our conviction to our principles. Please repeat the standard remarks that we all have on our order of service with me. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Those at home may light the candles or chalices. The next hymn that we will sing is 346 in the gray hymnal, Guide My Feet. Well, now we have a responsive reading led by Reverend Bob.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, our responsive reading is number 437. It's in your gray hymn book, and the custom is I read the first few words, and we join together on the italics. Number 437. Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips. Let's love the world through heart and mind and body. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our brothers and sisters. We seek to know the wistfulness of the very young, the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times of life. We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty. All life flows into a great common life if we will only open our eyes to our companion. Let us worship not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears. Let us worship with the opening of all the windows of our beings, with a full outstretching spirit. Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with a rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body, to those who have fallen in love with life. Let us worship, let us learn to love. The words are from Ken Patton. Ken Patton was one of the great Universalist ministers. In 1961, of course, he became a Unitarian Universalist minister when the two groups joined together, Universalists and Unitarians. Several mentors taught me about Ken Patton. They describe him as a humanist who taught us how to dance. Okay. Some of our Universalist and Unitarian services used to be a little bit on the stodgy side, frankly. This goes back to the kind of stuffy 1930s, 40s, 50s. Patton was in Boston and different places. He wanted a new style of worship where there would be emphasis especially on music, singing, ceremony, things like chalice lightings, things of that nature. And he did it. He wrote lots of poetry and did lots of good things, and he's still influencing us to this very day. Ken Patton. Thank you.
Thank you. My script isn't altogether put together the way it should be, so anyway, not everything is working out as expected. One thing that I omitted is at the beginning we usually ask if there's anyone here for the first time. And if you are, if you would indicate that you're here by standing, Doug will bring a microphone to you and you could tell us who you are and what brings you here. Anybody for the first time?
Good morning. I'm Jim Perot. It's my wife, Abby. We're new to Port Charlotte, just checking out the area and looking for a spiritual home. Thank you.
Welcome, yeah. All right. We also have the Book of Life, which I hope Betty will bring the Book of Life up now. It's a long tradition here at UUFCC to share our joys, sorrows, and life milestones by entering them into the Book of Life, this red book, which is always found on the right-hand side when you enter on the table, and you can write something in the book which will be read during the service. If you are not able to be here but want to send a message, you can do that by email. Get it in early enough so that we can have it for the service and it will be read at the service. Today is September 15th. We only have one thing written in the book. Can we as a community address our conflicts among us and still be family? Can our caring commitment be to loving and consideration of needed changes be ameliorated without anyone feeling hurt? This can be and deserves our healing power today. This is not signed by anyone. A message from Dennis. Dear members and friends of UUFCC, I cannot begin to express my gratitude for the many messages of support I have received following the death last Tuesday morning of my beloved little dog, Bosco. The grief and gratitude I'm experiencing are deep. How I loved him. How I love you. Once again, I am keenly aware of how much our precious community means to me. Thank you. In faith, Dennis. Another tradition that has developed is coming up and dropping stones into the ball of water. As you share a brief glimpse of joys or sorrows today, or milestones, identify yourself if you wish to. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. You just can come up and do it. So anyway, this is the opportunity to come forward and express your joy or sorrow with the dropping of a stone if you so wish. Please come forward now. Okay.
My name is Lori, and I'm putting in a stone for my friend who is battling alcoholism, and he has taken major steps in his life to get himself straight finally. He's going into a rehab on Wednesday. Warm wishes for him that he can indeed do this.
So tomorrow is my son's death day, and I'll be spending the day in introspection and planting some plants for him and setting some precious stones aside for him.
I can see clearly now, the cataracts are gone. And I thank you for your support in my faith to overcome all my doubts and to help me choose to let myself be cut. And it was a wonderful experience. Great doctors, and I slept through the operation and with the drugs, and here I am. Thank you.
My name is Hildiana, and I have a happy thing and a sad thing. I'm going to start with the sad first. We have a friend that's battling cancer. She's not doing... She's the strongest person I know. She's still here, but we need your prayers. She's been battling a long time. And Michelle is the sweetest person you would ever meet. She would give the shirt off of her back. And it's really hard. I want her to have all your prayers because I know prayers matter. The energy from you guys is going to help her survive this. So, it's my first time up here, and I wanted to make sure I did that for her. second stone, I want to be more happy. I want to thank everyone. Have my art that's at the Punta Gorda Library. And I'm new to this area, and because of your support, I was able to get there. And I have my art there, and a lot of you came to see the event. That was on Saturday. And I wanted to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for being there. The art's going to be there at the library for a month. So if you missed it, please come and see it. There's about 4 artists there for Hispanic Heritage Month, and the art is amazing. So thank you all.
Hi, I'm Jackie. I have 2 stones. One is I have a stone for Dennis. And the second is I love this community.
Hi, my name is Joseph, and I have a joy and a sorrow. Start with the sorrow. My heart goes out to the Haitian community, and they have been unfairly targeted, and they are vulnerable people, and the allegations have no basis in merit, but yet they are being persecuted by people who want to believe that they are less than human, but they are a wonderful people, and I don't want them to suffer. So the other thing is a joy. It's been a joy to work with the board. I've been on it for a little while. Never met such a dedicated group of people who really want this place to prosper and to flourish. So I dropped this stone with those things in mind.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Betty. I am chair of the Immigration Justice, and I'm also a member of the newly formed Charlotte Harbor LULAC, which is the League of United Latin American Citizens. And we sponsor our second event yesterday, and we did an art exhibition of Hispanic local artists. And I would like to thank each and every one of you. You have been so supportive. This is a new organization. We're advocating for the Hispanic population, which has been under attack the past few years. And we have a presidential candidate running still again on an anti-immigrant platform. And I thank you because you have made this Latina journey as a community activist advocating for the brown people, my people, easier with your money, with your time, and your effort. Thank you.
Well, yeah, my condolences to Dennis about Bosco. When I found out about it, I was searching the neighborhood for the last few days, and hoping a neighbor maybe took it in, or the dog was found shelter somewhere. So, and also, and a joy, my friend Denise in Jersey did get out of the hospital late yesterday, so I'm happy. Okay.
In a moment, I'll place the last stone in the water. This last stone represents those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, but are held in our hearts. May we hold all these and one another in love and tenderness, so that this fellowship continues to be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and the weeks ahead. Now Reverend Bob will deliver his message step by step.
Thank you, Ted. I think you've already given much of today's sermon, so you have the message from Ted already, and I'll just add a few footnotes. I'm going to talk today about Southern hospitality. You know, we're sort of south of the South. We're in Florida, but historically, at least, we're identified with the American South. And much gets said about, well, hospitality and the culinary arts and making people feel at home and some related topics. And yes, this is in the literature and the movies. You know, you're always hearing about Southern hospitality. But one of the things I'm sure all of you have discovered in the South, and this is true whether you've been here 6 months or 60 years or whatever, you find that some people are welcomed and receive Southern hospitality, and some people are not welcomed. Some people are pushed aside, and in some extreme cases, actively persecuted. So we worry about, for example, the immigrants who've already been mentioned this morning. Some immigrants are welcomed with open arms, particularly if they're prosperous, well-educated, if they look like us, you know. Maybe they're taken in, maybe with a little bit of skepticism, but they're still welcomed. Other immigrants who we depend upon, it's not so easy. And much is said these days about hunting down undocumented immigrants and sending them back to wherever they came from. And you've heard that talk. People with disabilities, well, some of them are welcomed, particularly if they come with money. Maybe they're seeking medical care. That helps local industry. But some people with disabilities are not welcomed, and particularly if they're low income, minority, just generally if they don't seem to, quote, fit into the culture. And there are certainly other groups that can be mentioned, some religious groups. Historically, this Florida culture of ours has been dominated by Christianity for the last 500 years or so. Other religions not always appreciated and respected. And so it is that one of the things that has happened in this building, well, look around. You'll find that many religious and cultural traditions are respected, represented, celebrated even, including the humanist tradition, which is that emblem over there. All of these people come searching for hospitality, kindness, some level of personal support. Several years ago, I was involved with a congregation that was doing something remarkable that caught the notice of the National Unitarian Universalist Association. People in Boston were talking about this outlaw or outlier congregation. In the midst of an area where many churches were failing, being closed down, this one congregation was actually bucking the trend. It was flourishing, prospering, drawing in new members. Week after week, month after month, and against all the odds, all the expectations, the congregation was growing and actually becoming more diverse. And so it was that leaders in Boston did ask the question, why is this particular congregation growing? What's the formula? You know, what are they doing down there? And one of the church leaders said, well, we serve a better brand of coffee. And this was dutifully put into the UUA records, serve better brand of coffee. Well, that was part of the story, and it was an important part. And of course, I realized there are people present who are not coffee drinkers, and it's the same in other areas. Maybe you prefer herbal tea or lemonade or something else, but coffee makes a difference. Turns out that what we used to call the coffee hour, I guess it's the refreshment hour here. What's the term used? here? Well, whatever it is, okay. This time of hospitality that follows the service turns out to be extremely important in the life of a congregation. And yes, it's good to have a good cup of coffee served, preferably fair trade, okay? That sends a message too, by the way, if you're using fair trade products. But I want you to think not so much about the coffee hour and what happens after the Sunday service, although please stay, because it's important. I want you to think about what happens at the very beginning. Now, there's an old saying, it's been around, decades, that when you go into a temple or a mosque or a church or whatever religious association it might be, you will know in less than 15 minutes, okay, less than 15 minutes, if you're in the right place, if you're really being welcomed, if you're wanted in that place. And this experience really, I probably shouldn't say this, it has nothing to do with the sermon, because the sermon has, well, we hope you stay for the sermon, okay? But the sermon hasn't been presented, or the lecture has not been presented at that point. And we're not really talking about music, although that's very important, but nobody has heard any music as they come through the door, presumably. And we're not talking about announcements or what some of the committees may be doing later in the day. We're talking about what happens especially as you enter the parking lot, as you move towards the front door, as you come into the front door, and how it is that you feel about that whole transition. So think about this morning, for example, what happened in this congregation. Now, first of all, there is signage out front, so we know that this is the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. It's easy to find. That's not always true for some congregations. I can think of several. It's just hard to find these places. It's not clear that they're open for business. The parking lot is accommodating. It's large enough, and that, again, does not always happen. I don't think this is accessible by a sidewalk, and so I hope that pedestrians and bicyclists and others can find easy access. But it is accessible from the parking lot to the main door with ramps. And again, this is not true for many religious organizations. There might be several steps involved, other barriers that make it difficult to get from the parking lot into the building. And that sends a message. It really does. And then the doors are opened. Maybe they're opened for you. Maybe you have to open them for yourself. But the doors are open, and what do you experience in that first, I'm going to say, 5 minutes? Do people say, "Good morning, it's good to see you," and acknowledge your presence? Do they really seem to be glad that you're here? Or they may be a little bit skeptical, a little bit standoffish, or maybe they're off in some far corner with their own discussions. Who is at the door, if anybody, to greet you? And what happens? And then the newbie looks around very quickly, it's inevitable, and what do they see? One of my mentors, one of my teachers when I was in seminary, Carl Whittier, used to say, bulletin boards, that's what they see. They see displays. They look for pictures, posters, maybe flags, artwork. They look for what's on the bulletin board in the literature rack. Now, the rest of you maybe don't pay attention to these things anymore because you've seen this stuff 1,000 times. But the newcomer notices what's on display. Is the bulletin board first of all, is there a bulletin board? But is it well tended? Does it look like it's just cluttery? Or is there some major points that are made that are attractive, that interest the newcomer? And there are other things that happen as well, and it all happens in less than 15 minutes. It's part of the art of hospitality. Think about it that way. It's all about welcoming the stranger. And in some cases, the prodigal son or the prodigal daughter who may have been away for a while. We can talk about snowbirds, certainly. You know, welcome back. We've missed you. Maybe you've been ill for 5 weeks. Whatever it is, you know, it's good to have you back with us once again. People come into a religious organization, well, for several reasons. I suppose some come here for great theological discussions, or maybe they want to get involved in a political campaign, and there are such people, and it's duly noted. But most people, most of the time, are coming here for something that is much more personal, and I would even say much more spiritual. It goes very deep. They just want to be acknowledged, most of them, or at least appreciated, respected. They want their dignity and worth to be affirmed in some ways. People come to church, it's often said, to understand and to be understood. And many of the people who arrive at our doors, and I've mentioned some already, have not been welcomed. Some have even had doors slammed in their face. Some have been actively abused. Some come here looking for sanctuary from difficult situations at work or at home or perhaps with the neighbors. They just want to be acknowledged, appreciated, and they want to know that they're in a safe space where they're respected. And this is a lot of what hospitality is all about, at least in our Unitarian Universalist understanding, but I suggest that the tradition is in other places as well. And certainly when you read about Jesus of Nazareth, when you read about the Buddha, Muhammad, other great religious leaders, you realize that one of the things that they're doing in different cultures is teaching the art of hospitality, and especially how to welcome the newcomer. It's a common theme in many of the universal religions, and in some of the smaller ones as well. The art of hospitality. Nowadays, Unitarian Universalists talk about radical hospitality. Now, radical does not mean radically right-wing or radical left-wing. It's not really political in the usual sense of the term. Radical means that we not only practice hospitality here in our building, but sometimes we go into the larger world to see what we can do to welcome people and to make people just more comfortable, more at home in places where there may be a lot of suffering, a lot of confusion, and a lot of difficulty. And with that theme in mind, that concern in mind, I'm going to talk about several places where this congregation is needed in the weeks ahead. I think at one point it said 120 days, but that was written a couple of months ago. We're talking really about the next 6 weeks. You know, where is this congregation needed in this community to extend hospitality and kindness and compassion and support to people who are going to need it, people who are especially vulnerable? And we can talk about several events this morning, and I proceed to do this. And I want to say more as we move into the coffee hour. We really can have a conversation. The first activity I want to mention, September 28th, September 29th. Now, you know what's going to happen on September 28th, 29th, at least several of you do. It's going to be the National Climate Revival for the Unitarian Universalists. There are about 350 congregations nationwide that have already signed up for this event, and more are coming on board each week. And the idea is to have a national conversation using Zoom about climate change. We talk about the science of climate change, but we also talk about what we do, especially in congregations and in clusters of congregations, that will be helpful before, during, and after disasters. And in Florida, we know that we're at the height of hurricane season. So these are some of the themes that are very much on our mind. Now I'm going to ask, how many people here present are involved with the climate revival? Okay. All right. So we have at least 5, 6, 7 people or so involved with it. And I hope that you come forward at the coffee hour, maybe today during the service. I don't know if that's appropriate or not. Is that appropriate? Okay. Can people come forward and just say a little bit about how members of this congregation can be involved with this congregation's response to the climate revival? Make sure that everybody in this congregation and the friends of the congregation know how to do this, how to make the right connections at the right time. I'm involved with congregations in the Tampa Bay area and also down in Key West that we're working out our own arrangements. Each congregation's a little bit different for the climate revival. One of the things of special importance in this discussion about climate change, especially important during hot weather and hurricanes, is sheltering. Okay, the use of sanctuaries. Sometimes church buildings are used as cooling stations, just so people can get out of the heat. They can get a drink of water. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Sometimes things get more complicated. Congregations sometimes help out with emergency shelters. I've been doing that work for several years in Pinellas County. And sometimes the shelters are in use for several days. Families just hunker down. There's a need for food, sometimes rudimentary medical care. People with pre-existing conditions may have medical problems. There's a need for animal care. People are just frightened. They really are. They don't know what's happening back in their houses. Whether the roof has been ripped off, maybe they don't know that yet. Whether the windows have been broken, whether looters have gone in, they don't know. They don't know if they have a place to go back to. Some worry about whether they're going to have a job to go back to. So we move into the shelters. We provide support as best we can. We practice the art of hospitality. Years ago, I was in a shelter in a rural area in North Carolina. And on the second day, a couple of people who I did not know came to me and said, "Are you a preacher?" I said, "Well, yeah, sometimes, I guess. Can you read us the Bible?" "No, I'm a Unitarian Universalist. You want me to do the Bible?" No, I didn't say that. I said, "These people are scared. Yes, I will read the Bible." And so we found a copy. We were actually in a high school building. We found a copy of the King James Bible in the high school library. And I read passages that seemed appropriate. And you have to meet people where they're at. And if they're conservative Christians in a small town in North Carolina and they want to hear from the King James Bible, yes, I will read you from the King James Bible. Because I think that's what you want and need. And that's part of what hospitality is all about. So I hope that you help out with the shelters when the next hurricane arrives. And maybe it'll be 3 weeks from now, maybe it'll be 3 years from now. But the day will come. October 1st. Well, that's a need for hospitality. What's going to happen on October 1st? All right. Okay, I'll tell you what's going to happen on October 1st in this state. The state of Florida is going to try to control homeless people. All right? Homeless people have been tolerated in many places, and I think this includes Port Charlotte, but certainly many of the towns I know in Florida. And they sleep in public parks or under bridges or in other places, wherever they can find safety. And they're often tolerated by local government. The state has decided to crack down. Doesn't want to have that stuff anymore. We don't want homeless people in front of restaurants and shopping malls and that kind of thing. So the state has said, from now on, any citizen, any organization, anywhere in the state wants to file a complaint with government, they've got standing. And if they see homeless people hanging around in the parks, spending the night there or whatever, they can issue the complaints. And we've been told in St. Petersburg, at least, that the police will come and move them to where? Where exactly are they going to take these homeless people to? Because the state is not providing any additional support or funding to care for homeless people, nothing significant. All we know, we actually I'm part of the Interfaith Association for Tampa Bay. We actually met with the chief of police, and he said, well, the police will take them to a place where they can be taken care of. And it won't be St. Petersburg. We're not really sure where it is. I find that rather disturbing, and I think most people of faith find that rather disturbing. These are people who need kindness, who need our love, who need our support, hospitality. And if we don't provide it directly, we can provide it indirectly by supporting, well, shelters that already exist in the community, clinics that help out with homeless people, food pantries, other organizations that provide assistance. And we can make it clear that we're concerned about the poorest of the poor. Think of that, the poorest of the poor, to be homeless. Yeah, that's poverty. That's real poverty. Hospitality is needed once again. October 7th. What happens on October 7th? Well, several things happen on October 7th. Of course, it's the one-year anniversary of the Hamas invasion of Israel. And I think that's a moment when every religious organization throughout the world needs to stop, do some serious reflection. The war will have been in progress for 1 year on October 7th. Closer to home, well, October 7th is the deadline to register to vote if you want to vote in Florida. So if you're not registered, now's the time to do it. Congregations can remind people this is the time to get registered if you want to vote in October. Voter registration is becoming more and more difficult in the Sunshine State, and you already know that story. And religious organizations are concerned about this. I mentioned the Interfaith Group for Tampa Bay. One of the things we're doing on Thursday is we're planning our response, an interfaith response. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to go to some of the polling places on November 5th. We'll be there with poll watching parties. We want to make sure that the ADA regulations are respected, that people who don't speak English as a first language, that they're protected. You don't have to speak English in order to be able to vote in Florida. That's not a requirement. But it can be difficult sometimes if you don't speak English fluently. We're concerned about African Americans, Native Americans, other groups that historically have been discriminated against and harassed. And a lot of this has to do with this theme of hospitality. Some years ago, I was in one of the African American neighborhoods in St. Petersburg for Election Day. A pickup truck came by, filled with white people, American flags flying, had a Tea Party sign on it. This was a few years ago. And it just prowled around the parking lot. Never stopped, but it just prowled around. I was with a group of older African American men, mostly retired, and things got very tense. Who are these people and why are they here at a polling place in an African American community on Election Day? It brought back memories of intimidation, brought back a lot of memories. I was kind of tense. I didn't know what was going to happen next. In Florida, you're not always sure who's welcome at the voting place. You're not always sure who's keeping an eye to see what's going on. And so it is that religious groups go to polling places. We provide drinking water to the thirsty. If it rains or if it's hot, we have umbrellas to share, maybe a little bit of food, other ways of providing support. We can move wheelchairs. We can take care of service animals. It's all part of our new tradition of Southern hospitality on Election Day. Finally, I mentioned the harvest season because this is one of the harvest seasons for Florida. You know, part of what goes on in Florida, and I think you gardeners know this already, we're always growing something and we're always harvesting something. So it's not like Minnesota, Massachusetts, or those places. For us, there's always a harvest season, or almost always a harvest season. And at this time of year, despite the hot weather, we celebrate what we've been able to grow in recent weeks. Sweet potatoes, okra, chili. Yeah, we can grow stuff all year round down here. It's not always easy. But we can thrive, and we can survive, and we can prosper, even in difficult situations. And that's part of what we celebrate in September and October. October 12th has special significance. For many of us, it's becoming, well, this is the Florida Harvest Celebration. What happens in November, end of November, well, that's a story about Massachusetts. You know, it's kind of remote, you know, cranberry sauce and stuff like that. We're focusing on, you know, I like cranberry sauce. I have no objections, okay. We just don't grow cranberries down here. You know, I'm sorry. What do we grow? We grow pineapples down here. You know, callaloo, you know, similar things, you know, Scotch bonnet peppers, you know, Seminole pumpkins. Yeah, that's what we celebrate here. And for us, when we celebrate a day of Thanksgiving, we want it to be a multicultural, multiracial, multi-faith event that everybody can enjoy. So we're not just looking at some historic moment back in the 1600s or 1500s or whenever and saying, well, this is the moment when the white folks arrived and then celebrated Christianity on the beach or whatever. We recognize that harvest traditions have been part of Florida for thousands of years, and it's certainly true in the Caribbean, and that they continue. And that we're part of this tradition. And it's all about Southern-style hospitality. And so it is on October 12th, Indigenous Peoples Day, also known as Columbus Day in some places. We'll have at least 2 or 3 parties, community parties that I'm aware of in St. Petersburg to bring people together. We'll celebrate native trees, native crops, and we'll think about a changing environment where we need to understand some of these new crops that can grow during extreme heat. So this is part of the climate change discussion, but it's very much a part of Southern hospitality. Those are some of the things that are happening in the days ahead, and I invite you to get active as a congregation to think about these things, because they're going to define who you are. They're going to explain what this congregation represents and what it does. It's an historic moment or series of moments in American history, all leading not just to November 5th and Election Day, but into Inauguration Day on January 20th. And whatever happens, it's going to change this country in some big ways. It'll change this congregation. My final quote about hospitality comes from Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou, and some of you know this quote. Maya Angelou, the poet, the writer, playwright, wrote, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel." Words for the harvest season. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Well, this is the opportunity now for our new climate action team to come forward, Joseph, hopefully, and give us an idea what they have to say and what they're planning.
Thank you. I'm part of a team which includes Mike, who's here today. We're planning for events during the Climate Action Weekend. It is 2 weekends from now, as mentioned by Reverend Bob. The first event happens on September 28th between 1 and 5 p.m. It's going to be at this location. We're going to have workshops, and we're going to have what's called facilitated dialogues, which include collective visioning, making connections, building capacity, nourishing relationships, and charting a course forward. You don't have to be a climate expert to be here, just an ordinary concerned citizen. We're going to ask you, how is climate change affecting you? what is the kind of world that you envision where climate change has been solved, and how can we use our talents, our interests, our passion to move things forward. Those of you that received the update, there is a link there to RSVP. So important to do that so I can plan to have enough materials and refreshments and other things. So go ahead and click on that link, or you can send me an email message if that is convenient for you. So thank you so much. Hope to see you on the 28th at 1 o'clock. Thanks.
That was the opportunity to demonstrate your thanks by giving an offering. I hope we have somebody prepared to bring the baskets. There you are. Okay. The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. It is supported by the generosity of all who join with us. In our tradition, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. There are several ways in which you can give. You can mail checks to the office, drop them in our mailbox, or call the office to make other arrangements. We are also equipped to accept donations through the Venmo app. Payments through this app should be made to UUFCC offering. If you would like your donation to apply to anything other than the operating fund, like our second helping, for example, please indicate your intentions in the check's memo line. Your generosity is always appreciated. If you are with us for the first time, I should have told you, you did not have to feel obligated to give, because your presence is a gift. Now we have the life of the community. And as far as I can see, there's nothing written on the back. The life of the community is today, I don't have one with the back. The life of the community is, this is a birthday time. There's the town hall, will be held after the service is completed. And that's about the size of it. All right. Okay, please. This is the last week for Gina Battle's beautiful artwork. We need your art for the next exhibit, all nature themes as well as climate change themes. Next Friday is the reception. Thank you. Receiving, whatever that is. Join us for coffee and birthday cake. There's several names here: Richard, Mary, Holly, Betty, Cassandra, Laura, George, and Tom. All who have September birthdays, happy birthday. For your contributions, thank you. We appreciate that. And hopefully we will use those funds in a responsible way. Now if I'm not mixed up, if I have that where I belong. Closing words from Reverend Bob.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Blessed be.
Now we'll have the extinguishing of the chalice. Dr. Mike, please. Please join me in reciting our traditional statement as the chalice is extinguished. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. May those ideals shine in our lives and warm our hearts until we are together again. Go now in peace. Hopefully the final hymn is somewhere in here. 168, 168, one more step. Thank you. Enjoy the cake.